Hello, everyone, and welcome to Growing Kentucky's Leaders. I'm one of your hosts, Sheldon McKinney.
And I'm your other host, Ruth Ann Fink.
And today we get to introduce you to one of Kentucky FFA's newest board members. I think after this conversation, you're going to understand why when we met Dwight and got to know him, we thought he's the perfect fit to be leading in the FFA Foundation Board of Trustees and just the great energy that he brings everywhere he goes, and especially around our board table. He is the co-owner of Silent Guard, a 30-year-old second-generation family business, and Davis HVAC Experts, a 44-year-old third-generation business. Dwight and his wife Barbara have been married for 38 years now and high school sweethearts. And they are grandparents, community leaders, and Dwight loves FFA. And I can't wait for you to hear his story. So, Dwight, welcome to our show.
Hey, thank you so much, Sheldon, Ruth Ann. Great to see you this morning. And yeah, I'm excited. Don't know where it's going to go, but I'm really excited to get started and start sharing.
It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Let's start at the very beginning, really, for you, Dwight. And how did FFA have a place in your story? How did you meet FFA?
You know, I grown up on my great grandparents' farm. It just sort of instilled a work ethic, and because it's a grind. You know, you've been around farms, you've seen some, you live on farms, and it's early mornings, it's late in the evenings, it's 7 days a week, and so they really taught me a valuable lesson about just what hard work can do. And so I didn't going into high school, and I've got a really unique experience with FFA because I was able to go to a small high school, and they started consolidating back in the early 80s. So 83, maybe 84, they took the seniors, and then the next year they took the juniors and then the sophomores. So we were the actual last freshman class at Shottville High School. And you had the option that you could go to Pulaski for your freshman year, or you could stay at your little community school, and in my case, Shottville. And I think there might have been, Shottville, Nancy, and Burnside. There were only three little high schools left. And I'm not really for sure if Nancy or Burnside, I imagine Nancy did, but Shottville, Mr. Jimmy Wilden was the ag teacher there. And I didn't really set out to go into FFA or even into ag class. I remember we had to, everything was new, right? And your class was so small. I mean, our ag class might have had 12 students in it. Our entire ag class had 12 students in it. So it was really small. And another passion of mine, I don't know that you know this, is music. I love music. And so I had already decided to go in one direction with one of my electives, and I needed to pick another one, and I didn't really know. Okay, was it music? Was it? I didn't know. There were several options there. So I'm walking through the class with some of my buddies, and I remember Mr. Jimmy Wilden. We're walking by the ag class, and he said, "Hey boys, you boys coming in?" And we just went in. And like, absolutely. So it wasn't really, I wish I had like, yeah, I couldn't wait to get there, but it was just a chance of walking by that classroom, Mr. Wilden being at the right place at the right time. And, fortunately, I was able to fortunately be elected as an officer. I was a vice president of that Shottville class. And then I was hooked. I mean, I was hooked just, from that moment on. It just, I don't know, there's something about it. There was a family connection that just, I don't know. It's really odd but it just really clicked. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning.
Yeah.
And you had just FFA experience in high school, that connected you back to us many years later. So I think that's a testament to the power of agriculture teachers and being invited in.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mr. Wilden and I are still close to this day. He and I are probably as close as any other teacher that I had, and yeah, so it's come full circle. I couldn't be more proud of where he's at today, and I know he tells me all the time how he reaches out and just says, "Hey, how are you doing?" Checking in on you, and that just, yeah, not many teachers do that. So I'm really blessed with that.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And I know there's so much more to your FFA story and what it meant to you, and we will get to that, I promise.
Yeah.
And Dwight, you're quite the historian too. You'll send Sheldon and I texts of like, look at this picture from, or your camp leadership certificate. So we'll touch on some more of those things in a bit, but we would be remiss if we did not mention part of your bio, and Sheldon introduced you to the show, was about these companies that you run and co-own. And so tell us the origin story. We've heard the origin story for FFA. Tell us the origin story about your companies. You and your wife, Barbara, you've been running these family businesses for a really long time. Tell us about what Silent Guard is, what Davis HVAC is. And, when you and Barbara were newlyweds, could you have imagined what
Oh,
it
no,
is now?
no.
So, yeah, tell us that
No,
origin story, how it all began.
we just celebrated, as Sheldon touched on, our anniversary, and just last week, and so we had some time to kind of reflect a few days ago, and no, never dreamed. I mean, it was so
Yeah.
simple. Times were so simple, and we laugh because when we first got married, we had a combined income of $7.55. That was our combined income, and we lived in a little small apartment about maybe 600 square feet. But those were the best. I mean, those were so fun times. They were very simplistic. We got really close. We did a lot of things together. She and I both played a lot of sports, and once we got married, we were able to come together and started playing a lot of co-ed softball together. And I had started working with an electrician. Her dad got me a job right out of high school working for an electrician, and then a few months after that, I think he said, it looks like you're going to be around for a while, so you might as well come to work for me. So, and he and the electrician were best friends, and they kind of knew, they kind of knew I was a little bit of a test, if you will, to see if because it's hard to hire. And I do the same thing here. We're real careful to hire boyfriends or girlfriends because you never know, right? You never know how
Yeah, yeah.
that's going to work out. And so I went to work for her dad. This was in 1987 in the HVAC industry. And her dad, matter of fact, he's here. He's here right now as we speak. He just had triple bypass surgery and doing wonderful. And he comes in. Somebody asked me recently, does he come in very often? And I said, well, just enough to tell us what we're doing wrong, because he can do anything. But so I went to work for her parents and in the HVAC industry. But I didn't know for sure a few years later that if that's the route I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I'm playing golf with a friend that worked at the electric company, and he was telling me of a couple openings that were available. And so I went and talked with someone there, and he's telling me about this entry level security position. And so I'm like, I'll look into it. That would be fine. So I went to work for them in 95. Had the opportunity to take over that program in 98. And then in 2000, Barbara and I said, why don't you just sell us this business? So we kept our HVAC licensings. Barb has her master's degree in HVAC, or master's license, and I've always had my journeyman's. And so every year we would sit through continuing education classes. And about 4.5 years ago, we were like, why are we doing this? It doesn't make sense. But God knew, God's plan. He knew all along that a few months later, after having that conversation of, what are we doing? Her parents were ready to, completely step away. And so we had the opportunity to step in and take over. And we've tried to instill everything that he taught us. He never was a real vocal leader. He just led by example. And he always did right. He always treated people right. And so that's kind of where Silent Guard and Davis Heating and Air. And like you said, we're 45 years old and 30 years old, 31 years old this year. And that's where it all began.
And tell us what Silent Guard just
Okay.
does.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't think
sorry.
people know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Silent Guard. The difference in the two companies, Davis Heating and Air, we do a lot of residential, small commercial, just in the Lake Cumberland region, right? We don't venture too far outside of the Lake Cumberland region. Silent Guard has evolved to where we're a low voltage integration company, to where we'll do access control systems. You see the key scans where you go into a room, video systems, camera systems, audio. Security, automatic gates. You drive into the farm there, and a gate. Oh, so we're more of a larger commercial company,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know this. We just evolved from a little small, me and Barb and a couple other employees, to now. Taylor just told us, our son said that we're now in 10 different states with our products and services, that I had no idea. But we've got a great team. Again, her dad taught me to surround yourself with really good people. And that's what we've tried to do. We've got good people around us. And so, yeah, that's what Silent Guard and Davis Heating and Air are.
Yeah. And anywhere we go with you, I know you probably can't even share this. We go to these incredible places. You're like, yeah, they're a customer. Yeah, I help them with all of this. It's pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
it is.
So,
One time I was able to say, oh yeah, I was able to design that. I installed it. I've serviced it. I've done everything. And now you drive by and see a sign and like, oh, I didn't even know that was there. So,
yeah, because you
yeah,
just
yeah, pretty awesome.
well, when we visit with you and Barbara and you get to see the people around you, it's clear that you have done that. You have surrounded yourself with great people. And, visiting your offices, it's clear that you have a culture and value system. How have over your lifetime in business, you have led this team, you all have created that culture. What have been some of those key values that you and Barbara have had as leaders that have guided your company?
Well, again, I think it's just, I had an amazing village. I didn't really grow up with as traditional as, some families. So I had an amazing village that really looked after me, and knew that there were times where I needed help and whatever the case may be, but FFA was part of that amazing village early on, that camaraderie of that family. I lived with my great grandparents, my great aunt, my great uncle, and we didn't have a lot of means, but we had a lot of love. We were brought up in church. We loved. I always tell people I had a drug problem when I was younger because my great aunt, she queened the church. So she drugged me there on Sunday morning. We were the first ones there and the last ones to leave on Sunday night, and the first ones there on Wednesday and Wednesday night as well. So those values were instilled to me. Just again, we didn't have a lot of resources, but we just had a lot of love around us and a lot of people that just treated us right. And so those values have just carried over. And I've worked for people early on that were not, I don't want to say bad people, but were just tough to work for. And we say all the time that life is just too short to be miserable. And we even tell employees, we've got 50-ish employees, I guess. And if someone comes to us and says, I'm thinking about making a career change, I made that career change. And so we encourage them to do what you want to do. It's not personal, it's business. And we'll support you in any way that we can. So again, I just had a lot of amazing people around us, Sheldon, that just instilled in by doing right. And again, we make a lot of mistakes, don't get me wrong, but we try to lead by doing right.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh, that's really special, Dwight, because earlier you just mentioned how your father-in-law, led by example. It sounds like you all really are carrying that legacy out, and that culture's remained the same. Shifting gears just a little bit I want to talk about our FFA members in Kentucky now. We as adults that are in this FFA world on the board or, volunteers and supporters, we talk so much and we say, our FFA members today are tomorrow's leaders, tomorrow's workforce, tomorrow's you fill in the blank, right? Like we say that all the time. But we do mean it around here. We talk a lot
Absolutely.
about workforce and how what FFA is doing is creating really great future employees, employers, you name it, part of that workforce. You deal a lot with the workforce, right? Like you're in that world constantly. And we have a lot of FFA members that listen to this podcast. So I want to really hone in on your expertise and advice here. So here's my question. We know these FFA members, they're going to be in the workforce. We know that trades are really important, sometimes overlooked as careers. When you all are hiring in your companies, what are some of those big things you're looking for of who you want on your team, and what for students that are interested in a skills trade or a career similar to yours, what can they be doing now to grow that skill set? So like, what are you looking for when you're hiring? What can they be doing now to be a great employee in the future?
Yeah, that is a great question, and it's something that we've tinkered with over the years, and I don't know that there's a right answer, but something that we really stick to is character, work ethic. There's, you know, we used to own a restaurant at one time, and I remember, you know, our son would come back. He played college baseball, and he would come back for the summers, and one of his first jobs was doing dishes. He would be doing dishes in the restaurant, and I remember someone walking in and saying, I can't believe that you have your son washing dishes when he could be out here doing other things. And I said, well, we try to instill, it doesn't matter what you're doing. And if you're working hard, it does not go unnoticed. And today more than ever, I mean, it doesn't matter where you're at. And I always say, try to find your passion. But that passion, you may not get to that where you want to be for like maybe 10 years. But while you're getting there, do the best job at whatever level. If it's washing dishes, or if it's serving, or if it's, you know, cutting tobacco, or just have a good work ethic. So farmers have good work ethics. You can't grow up on a farm and not have a great work ethic, right? So I hire a lot of Shopville residents for that very reason. But but we've been able to work with the college, and the college has, through HVAC, they've got a really nice HVAC program there. They've got industrial maintenance. They've got IT. They've got, let's see, there's 2 or 3 others that now the professors, they know that if a candidate comes through, and they're watching. So we have people watching people, if you will, and they say, you know, this person, he or she has a really good fit for your company. They know what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And so really, I know that's a long answer to your question, but if you come full circle, really having just having an interest in what you're doing, a strong work ethic, and everybody's watching. You know, we've got, you know, there's cameras everywhere, and if you're doing something wrong, that's going to be noticed. But in today's times, especially if you're doing something right, it's going to be noticed even more so.
You know, you touched on this a little bit, and I just want you to emphasize it a little bit more, or maybe give advice here.
Yeah.
You mentioned how important it is for these young people as they're entering the workforce. It doesn't matter what your job is. And oftentimes it's going to be low man on the totem pole. Let's be honest, like that
Right.
entry level
Absolutely.
job, right? It just is going to be. And oftentimes, and especially my work with Kentucky FFA works, not always, but we're seeing this lost appreciation, this lost mindset, I guess you could say, lost perspective, that is where you start
Right.
so many times. And that's part of it. And it's not saying that those individuals are not qualified to do more, or that they would be great doing other things. But like you said, we need to see that you have that work ethic, that you can, no matter what the task is, that you can show up and do it well.
Right.
So here's my question to you. It's like, what advice would you give young people today that they're just so eager, like they are ready to, they have such high aspirations. They want to do all these things in a company, but they've gotten an entry level position. What would you say to encourage them to be patient and do well?
Yeah.
What piece of advice would you give?
Again, just whatever task you're asked to do, just take it and do it. I mean, do it to your best ability, and not complain. I mean, we hear so many. I mean, we try to say we're a drama-free company, and over the years, we've been able to say, okay, you know what, they're not a good fit, even though they're a good worker, they're good. They have the knowledge, they have the skill set, but they have a bad attitude. So showing
Yeah.
up with a great attitude, smile and try to, because there's people out there. And so we've taken the mentality is that if this person is not a good fit, yeah, maybe I mean, I've parted ways with some really talented people because they had bad attitudes. And, the old saying is, one bad apple, spoil the rest. And so have a good attitude. Again, you may not love what you're doing, but keep working until you find what it is that you're doing. And regardless of what it is, we've got a young man right now that just got out of high school and he wants to go into HVAC. He came to us, and this time of year, you're kind of slowing down because you're in between seasons. But he came to us and he was so eager to learn this industry, and he's taken night classes. He says, I would be willing to work during the days and do some things around the warehouse and just learn the industry. And I'll take night classes and go to class from 5 to 10 o'clock. Well, once he told me that, I mean, it's a given. I mean, that's somebody that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And, but just go into whatever it is you're doing. Don't stop searching. Don't stop learning, because you may do something that you really don't like to do, but all of a sudden, maybe 5, 10 years later, you're like, you know what? I did this back then at that job that I hated, but it's allowing me to do this today. And so again, just take every opportunity and maximize it to its fullest level, because you never know where it's going to lead.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's good.
That's right. And I'll tell you, when we work with young people, interns, and anything, if you
Yeah.
are unpleasant to be around when you are given a job you don't like to do, you're going to be unpleasant to be around.
yeah.
Just in general, like
Oh
that.
yeah, every job has parts that are not glamorous. It doesn't matter what the job is. There's always going to
Yeah.
be a part that's not super glamorous. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nick Carter, our fellow board member, I forget how he even said this, but he said when you reflect on your career, he comes back and he thinks it was about who you were with. And
Absolutely.
as
It is.
Ruth Ann and I spend a lot of time together. We have a lot of fun with work.
Mhm.
I want to build our team with people we like spending time with, because
Sure.
they're great to be around. And it's clear that you have done that
Yeah.
at in your community. That also transfers to our next topic, which is board membership, volunteering. Volunteering is something that you clearly love to do. You have a lot of things that you're passionate about, and you're plugged in a lot of places. You volunteer to serve on the Kentucky FFA Foundation Board of Trustees. That's not a paid position. It's a small group of just wonderful people who are united to help grow the mission of FFA through philanthropy. I want to ask you a couple things. What roles it played in your life? And what does it mean to you to be at our table?
Well, I could spend an entire day talking about being at your table, if you will, our table. Um, Again, never in my wildest dreams could I have ever imagined being a little country boy, living with my great grandparents, that I would ever have the opportunity to be able to sit and, even on this podcast. I mean, I was so pumped last night, so excited to be here this morning, and to meet with you and Ruth Ann. Um, I love giving back, and I really think it goes back to when I was younger. Again, without glorifying a lot of things, I didn't live the traditional, childhood, if you will. And so I had amazing people around me that just, I say often, you've heard me say this, I had an amazing village. And I even, I can recall a conversation that I had with God years ago, because I didn't really know the direction that I was in. I mean, or the direction that I was headed. I was really concerned about the direction that I was headed. And I just said, God, if you'll give me a chance to give back, I will give back to the best of my ability. I didn't even know what that meant. I really didn't, because I didn't have anything, but I just knew I wanted to serve. And I think, FFA played a big part of that. And maybe we'll talk about, some of the camp things here later, but it really instilled some confidence in me by going through some of the programs that FFA offered, that I just saw, they're making a difference in my life. I didn't realize they were making a difference. It took me a few years later, but now I look back and reflect, and why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I want to help that next person?
Yeah.
And, we talked about how do you prepare this next generation? Well, it needs people in their lives that maybe have gone through things, or are going through things that are maybe similar. And yeah, it's just important for me. I mean, I've got to be careful, because Barbara, she'll say, you're giving everything away. You're giving more money away than we're making. I've never been driven by money. If it's up to me, I will give everything away. I mean, that's what I love to do. So I know I kind of
Well,
winded there, but
no, that's passion. That's
No,
passion.
it's your heart.
yeah.
And that is why, when we look at prospective board members of who we want at our table making decisions for FFA, I hope that people are listening to this and going, this is the heart of people we're looking for, that are truly passionate about what FFA can do, how it can shape the lives of young people who are going, this isn't about a career next step. This isn't about increasing my influence. This is about how I can use my influence to make a difference in the lives of Kentucky's young people through FFA. And you're doing that.
Yeah.
clear.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you're a product of
Yeah.
like that's how you know, right? Like you believe in the mission because you were the mission. Like you you were a product of the mission. And so I just want to give you an opportunity to share what was that transformational experience? Like what was the moment, Dwight, when you were an FFA member and it transformed you?
Yeah,
Why don't you share that with us?
yeah, there are several. Again, going back to my Shopville experience, and I wish I had that jacket. I would have loved so much to have that Shopville jacket. But going to camp my junior year, I had a little bit of a switch from moving to Kentucky because I wasn't for sure exactly what my future was. You
Yeah.
know, again, went through some pretty, challenging times. And so I ended up in Indiana with my mom for a full semester. And so I left Shottville being really involved in FFA, got into my sophomore year at Pulaski County High School and started getting involved. And then I took a little side tour, if you will. And so I ended up at in Indiana at one of the city schools there in Muncie, and they didn't have FFA, and I was so heartbroken because I just didn't know that schools existed without an ag program, and they had horticulture. So I got plugged into horticulture, and I thought, okay, I'm learning about plants, and I was intrigued because we always had a huge garden and things like that growing up. But something was missing. I didn't really know what was missing, and I only stayed there a semester, and then that's where I ended up back into Kentucky with my grandparents. And so I got involved my sophomore year. I was back, and then my junior year, I got more involved, and was elected vice president of Pulaski County's chapter my junior year. And it was a big chapter at the time. It was before Southwestern existed. And it was one of the largest chapters, throughout the state. A big difference from Shottville's 12 to Pulaski's several hundred. And being an officer, you're given some opportunities that maybe you wouldn't have if you weren't. And so they provided me with a blue jacket. They provided me with a yellow tie. I still have the tie. My first tie, I still have that tie. And they provided trips to Kansas City for the national convention, the National FFA convention. And that blew my mind, walking in there and seeing all those blue jackets from the entire country come together was kind of, it's chilling. It kind of gives me goosebumps this morning, to even think about that. And then the National Farm Machinery Show, and then we got to go to leadership camp. And so leadership camp, I went, and again, I was just a young country boy from from Shottville, Kentucky, that other than maybe driving back and forth from Indiana, I didn't go many places. We didn't get out. So FFA allowed me to do some traveling that completely took me out of my comfort zone. But my junior year at camp, I noticed the last day they were giving out leadership awards, and something about that just kind of sparked something in me that I knew that if I came back my senior year, I was going to do everything in my power to try to earn one of those leadership awards. But I also knew you couldn't fake it, right? It had to be real. So I did. I went back, and my senior year, I was again elected vice president of the Pulaski County chapter. Again, got to do a lot of amazing things, some travels. Going back to camp, my goal was to go in and try to earn one of those leadership awards. And they give out, I don't recall the exact number, but I'm guessing 8 to 10 maybe. And so we're sitting there.
I think they say it's 10% of the campers, right?
Yeah. And there was a lot of campers. I was able to go back this year as, just as a guest. And I don't think there was as many back there, because I think they've spread it out a little bit more than, and maybe, I guess there was too many of us back in the day, to be honest. So I love what you're all doing now, what the team's doing now. But so I worked really hard, and there's a little story that I'll share. I think I shared it in some notes that maybe and I don't know if I've ever told you the story about the swimming pool incident. Are you okay?
Oh, I have. You have, but
okay. So my senior year, I knew there was competitions, and I knew we had a lot of really good athletes that were traveling with us. Again, Pulaski County, it was a big school, right? So
hold on. For FFA members currently,
Yeah.
We have changed all of camp programming since 2020, and we have some sports. But back in the day, FFA camp was very sports related.
Absolutely.
It was a
Very
time
competitive.
for mediocre athletes at home to really shine. That's what I would
Absolutely.
say.
I mean, there was cross country running
Yeah.
events. There were
Yeah,
track
farm
and
boy
field.
varsity, you know?
Yeah, it was, but it was so fun because again, sometimes it put people outside of their comfort zones, and they
Pretty
do like, you know
neat.
what? I enjoy doing this. I didn't even know this. I could do this. So I think it even allowed FFA students to go back and be involved. But yeah, so there was a swimming event, and I could always hold my breath underwater for a long time, but I couldn't swim very well, and I always had to have goggles and nose plugs. So, so I'm thinking, okay, I've got my goggles, I've got my nose plugs, and I'm going to enter this underwater swimming competition. And you went back and forth,
Yeah.
so they would measure your distance, right? And so I get up there, and they did it one at a time. It wasn't like there were 10 of us. There was a one at a time. You went one at a time. So I got up there, and I'm getting ready to, I'm all prepared, got everything on, my goggles, my nose plugs. And they say, you're not allowed to wear your nose plugs or goggles. And I'm thinking, oh my, now what? But I was there and everybody was watching me. So I just went with it, right? I thought, I'm going to drown right here in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But
Truly, everybody at camp is around the pool.
Oh yeah, and
everybody
it's
can.
silent during the
Yeah, it
underwater swim.
is. It
Silence.
is. It's silence, and all eyes are on you, right? So this is the moment. So I turn my illegal gear in. I throw it to the side, and I take off. They blow the horn. I take off, and I'm thinking I'm doing really well. Like I said, I could hold my breath for a long time. So, long story short, I look up, and once I finally come to the wall, I I just pop up. But I look up and I go straight across. I don't go, north to south. I go straight over to the wall.
Yeah.
And that was a changing
Okay.
moment because that could have gone one of two ways. That could, and I could have really, tucked away. I could have been shy. I could have like, oh, woe is me,
Mhm.
but I didn't. And all week, campers would come up to me and say, aren't you that guy? I'm like, yeah, that was me. So we had so much fun with it. So we kind
Yeah.
of fast forward to the last night at leadership camp, and they're handing out the awards, and I'm nervous as all get out. And like I said, I don't know why, but it was just something about that whole experience dating back to my junior year. And they give out 8 to 10 awards, and my name wasn't mentioned. And I was so happy for my peers because I got to know them over the course of the past 2 years. And some of us wrote letters back and forth. So it was really fun to connect with several of the members from around the state. Back then, we didn't have cell phones, so everything was handwritten. So you'd write a letter and you'd say, okay, I wrote a letter to Ruth Ann and Sheldon. I hope they get it, and they mail me back, and you wait for 2 or 3 weeks and you get it. You're so excited, right? So I didn't get the leadership award, and like I said, I was happy for my peers. But then I think they had a transition towards someone, and I just found this out. I didn't know this. I just found this out, but they had a transition to someone else came into the leadership camp and kind of took over that year. And he said, "We want to." I'm sorry.
It's probably Dr. Pete at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I think that's what Josh and some of the ag teachers were telling me. And he said this year we want to give out again. I think it was like 3 or 4
Outstanding leadership.
outstanding leadership awards, and I was honored to get one of those outstanding leadership awards. And again, just found out this past summer that it might have been the first one, the first group. I might have been a part of that first group. And I think this year now, I think moving forward, they're all outstanding leadership. I don't think they have leadership and then outstanding. I think it's just all outstanding. But
I'm not
that,
sure. That's why I went to FFA camp 3 times and I never got a leadership award, and I was
yeah,
always one. So I mean, it's a big deal to get it. It really is.
well, it is. And,
Out in
and to your
young people.
Yeah, to your point, Ruth Ann, that changed me. I don't know
Mhm.
why, but that really instilled some confidence in me because again, it was a big group there. I don't think we had all the weeks like we do now, which is so awesome because you have more intimate time and more can
Yeah.
be involved. But it was such a large group, and I just remember that because I wasn't expecting it, didn't even know that it existed, so it was truly a surprise. But that really instilled some confidence in me that uh, I I honestly think that that was it. I mean, if there's one moment, one
Wow.
shining moment, that was the moment for me.
You know what I'm hearing, Dwight, is like a theme that I think is so important to call out is the importance of validation. I mean, you talked about when your ag teacher said, "Why don't you come in? Why
Yeah,
don't you come on in?" And you did. You know,
yeah,
just the validation to do that, or the validation of you are a leader. We see you as a leader, and now you're still a leader. And so, you know, whoever you are listening to this podcast right now, I hope you're thinking of who can I go validate? Because it's so important. Like we're all doing really great work in our own orbits, right? But until someone comes up to you and validates that, it's life changing. It really is. It propels them to the next thing. So that's my call out to people. I don't normally do this to our audience of like,
yeah,
here's your
yeah.
homework, go do this. But I think that's so important because you shared how transformational those 2 points of validation were. So go validate someone today. That's my homework to you.
Yeah, and ag teachers are so much so different. I mean, all teachers are special. I mean, I love
Yeah.
the passion that all teachers have, and we do a lot of most of our giving back locally is anything kid related. We very rarely do we ever say no for any. Well, I don't know that we ever say no for anything kid related. But ag teachers, I mean, when other teachers might be at the beach during the summer, ag teachers are helping you through projects that maybe you're working on in ag mechanics. I think we had ag mechanics, and they may be helping you with farm chores or going to camp, and the camp was really nice this year, by the way. There was really nice air conditioned rooms that we didn't have, but I remember
Not
our
the same
teachers
camp.
spending a week there at camp,
Yeah.
and they continue to invest in these students. And I don't know that they truly know the impact that they have on the
Mhm.
students that they're having. And it's really nice. I've had the opportunity just recently to spend some time with some of the last year's officers, state officers, and then this year's incoming officers, and to hear some of their stories and some of the paths that they're taking because their ag teacher played such an instrumental part in their lives, and they want to
Mhm.
give back as well. So, you touched on how these are the leaders of tomorrow. I take it a step further. They're actually already making a difference today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's
you're
really
right.
cool. Yeah, there's no other program. There is absolutely no other. A lot of wonderful programs. Don't get me wrong, but there's no other program that you could get in your local school that is going to give you the life skills and bring you out of your comfort zone and teach you things that you just never dreamed that you could do. That's going to propel you for your next chapter or chapters in life.
That's right. We agree. And that's why we are just so inspired to get to continue to do this work. So thank you for being with us, Dwight. We ask all our guests to wrap up the same 3 questions. So we'll do that now. And the first is just what keeps you motivated as a leader?
What keeps me motivated? Um, I don't really think about the motivation part of it. I just love doing what I do. And
That's
I'm just constantly looking for opportunities. And one of the things, even in my travels, if we go somewhere and I see someone that is working hard and they're in entry level position, whatever it may be, it inspires me to pull them to the side and say something to them, or whatever. I just that inspires me because there's a lot to be said about this younger generation, and a lot of people are wanting to give up on them, but they're not to be given up on because they're so
Mhm.
bright-minded. Yeah, they're not exactly like us, the way we think, but we didn't think the way our parents thought. And then, I mean, it
Yeah.
could go on and on. So that's what inspires me is I want to find not that I'm anything special by no means, but I'm just a byproduct of so many other special people. I want to be someone else's little village. And that's what inspires me each and every day.
Oh, that's great. We talk a lot about philanthropy. You know that as a board member of ours. We always ask our guests, though, just what's the most meaningful way that you've been able to be engaged in philanthropy?
Well, there's a lot of need. I mean, there's a lot of need, and times are tough for a lot of people, and especially in these little small communities where it's tough to be recognized or noticed because a lot of attention is given to the bigger areas, right? There's just so many hidden gems that are out there, and so one little being able to give back. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be monies. It could be time. It could be whatever. Planting seeds to see where they might end up being years down the road. I've had the wonderful opportunity to hear from some former maybe players that I've coached, or we used to do Bible studies in our house, and we've had over 100 kids in our basement come through our basement, and we have a wall that everybody that's ever come through our basement has signed this wall, and I still look at it, and it still inspires me, because some of those names on that wall, even though that we've lost touch because they've gone on, they're spread all over the world, they'll reach out and say, hey, you made a difference. Or remember that speaker that we had in your basement? We had an MMA fighter that came to our basement and spoke. Yeah, it was crazy. Every week we had an amazing speaker in our basement at our house. And here's what we were challenged by Bobby Perry, and I don't mean to get off subject here, but we were challenged by Bobby Perry a few years ago to go back to your communities and make a difference. So that's what I would send that challenge out to anybody that's listening. Doesn't matter what it is, figure out a way how you can make a difference in your community. And if you'll watch and see where it goes from there, I mean, it's endless. The opportunities are endless.
I love that.
And you've done that in so many ways, Dwight. I know you probably don't want to brag on yourself and all the things you do, but you have helped a lot of causes and a lot of people. And so thanks.
You are a philanthropist by definition.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a byproduct of someone helping me. And that's how this cycle works.
Yeah. Here, our last question. This is a fun one. Your answer could be truly anything, but what is something that you can't stop talking about right now?
That I can't stop my granddaughter, for one thing.
Yeah,
that's so true. Yes.
I just got a message. I just saw a message on my phone. She's here. I didn't know she was coming down. So
you gotta go. Yeah.
That's the best surprise.
I can't stop talking about my granddaughter. And we have another one that's due in December, another girl. I don't know if I've shared that with anybody yet or not, but honestly, and Barb will tell you this, Sheldon, I know it's going to be cliche because I'm sitting here with you and Ruth Ann, but I can't stop talking about FFA. And I've never stopped talking about it. We've been married and together all these years, and she has heard a lot about the blue and gold and didn't really quite understand it. And, I'm really proud that she's got to be with me on some of the things that we've got to do together, on the board. And I think she truly gets it. And so I know that's a cliche statement in this moment, and you're like, come on, what else? But I really love what we're doing here. And I love the opportunities that, with this recent donation through the Gatton Foundation. It gives me chills to think about, just what little someone helped me. Oh my goodness, what is the potential of not only changing the direction and the future of FFA, but I think it was Kirby or someone said that it's going to change our state. And if you go out further, it's going to change the world, because those leaders are going to step out and do some amazing things. So I can't stop talking about that right now, but yeah, that's pretty fun, pretty exciting.
Great. Dwight, thank you for being such a great advocate and a great friend. We are just so happy that you're on the board, and it's been a pleasure to get to let our listeners meet you and hear that from the folks around our table who are making a difference. We appreciate all you do, and thanks for being on our show.
Thank you, Sheldon. Miss Ruth Ann, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us for another episode of Growing Kentucky's Leaders.
Growing Kentucky's Leaders is a podcast brought to you by the Kentucky FFA Foundation. Our music is performed by Bourbon County FFA member Joe Fritch. Artwork is by Julie Fritch Creative. Your hosts are Sheldon McKinney and Ruth Ann Fink, and you can find us on all social platforms at Kentucky FFA.